So welcome to this month's video for the Sanderson 24-hour readathon. This month we are working on book 2 of the Stormlight Archive, which is Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. This is a chunky book. This is actually my husband's copy, and you can see like the spine is all kinds of bowed and everything because it was not stored exactly properly. But also this is, like I said, a really chunky book. This is an over 1,300 page novel. So I'm definitely not going to get this done in 24 hours, but I would like to make at least a good chunk of the way through it based on my reading schedule that I had set up for the course of the month, which for today, focusing on this, I have the audiobook, I think, for this. If I don't, it's fine. I can figure it out. But for today, the goal was to get through the first 108 pages of this, and then tomorrow, somehow, probably not until afternoon, get through another 187. So I don't think I'm going to get to that 187 point tomorrow because basically I'm starting this today with the 24-hour readathon, and then we'll be continuing this over the next week. So like really I just want to see how much I can get through before noon tomorrow, and I'm going to be continuing this next week as it is anyway. So I just kind of wanted to start this off with kind of giving you guys an idea of what Words of Radiance is. If you have not seen my last Brandon Sanderson 24-hour readathon video for the first book, which was called The Way of Kings, I would highly recommend looking into that because that's going to have a little bit more idea of like basically what the series itself is about. Because since this is the second book in the series, I may have some things that I have to talk about that might be a little spoilery for the first book, so go into this video with that mindset. But essentially, like I said, this is the second book in a quartet currently, and I think there's going to be one more book, I think, coming at some point later on down the line. But currently there's 4 books in this series, as well as like a novella. But this deals with a lot of different things. One of the first things, though, we have is Kaladin, and he basically is a former medical apprentice turned soldier turned slave, essentially, from the beginning of the first book. And he, over the course of that book, learns a lot about himself and about how exactly he's been able to survive as long as he has, despite having gone through extremely traumatic circumstances, physically, mentally, emotionally, all those things. And it really showcases the fact that Kaladin is a character where, like, he is very important in this world. He has kind of got that almost chosen one, in a sense, kind of trope. That's as much as I can say without spoiling really much of the first book. Also, in the course of the first book, we learned a lot about this other character named Shalyn. Shalyn, you learn, goes to this woman. She's basically like I wouldn't say necessarily like a princess of any kind. She technically is, I guess, in this world of some kind, but she's a really well-known historian. Shalyn is looking to essentially infiltrate this historian's world, pose as a possible mentee. Then the third main perspective that we have so far is this man Dalinar. Now Dalinar is the brother of the king who had been killed, and the whole thing with the king being killed is that it starts up this kind of brewing war that's kind of been on the horizon for a while, but it's really the big catalyst for things to get moving further, because in this world you have 2 kingdoms, the Pardeshi and the Alethi, and they have been kind of going back and forth for generations. And essentially what ends up happening is at the very beginning we see a character named Zeth, who is a mercenary. We do see parts of his perspective again throughout most of The Way of Kings. He is the person that goes and kills Dalinar, who is the king, and when he kills him, that then puts his son in charge, and Dalinar, who is Galinar's brother, is kind of like almost the second hand to the son. And you learn through Dalinar's perspective that he's starting to kind of have these visions, or what he thinks might be hallucinations, and a lot of it has to do with the myths that surround this world that are thousands of years old, that people don't really know whether or not it's true. It's kind of like that same idea that when we in contemporary society, especially in the US, think about ancient civilizations, right? We don't know necessarily 100% everything that happened back there. But especially if we're looking at, like, the way that this kind of felt was very ancient Egyptian inspired, or maybe even ancient Greek. is that the way that we started to learn more about the culture of the past was by looking at the ruins of things and the texts that were basically left behind that we could then translate and use. And Dalinar talks about how his brother was able to read this text called The Way of Kings, which basically was something that supposedly had been around for 4,500 years from the initial rulers of this entire world. Now, a big thing is that in this world, men are not supposed to read. They're not really, it's not something that is like super important. Women are the ones that are able to read usually. And so already that was a huge thing on Dalinar that people were kind of confused about. And then apparently, leading up to his death, we find out that Dalinar had been saying a lot of things. People were wondering if he might have been going crazy and if he was going to die of madness as opposed to dying from being murdered. And Dalinar is kind of experiencing a lot of those same things in The Way of Kings. We start to see him basically be looked at almost as if he's a crazy person, but you start to see over the course of the story that he might not be as crazy as he is seeming to be. And that kind of, again, ties back in with something that happens with Kaladin later on when he finds out a lot about himself and what exactly is his purpose. The majority of Kaladin's storyline, though, is, in The Way of Kings at least, learning about, like I said, what exactly it is that he is, but then also getting a lot of backstory about how he went from being a medical apprentice to being a soldier in the first place, which is incredibly heartbreaking when you read it and realize what exactly happened and how it's affected him today, because it makes you understand why he's questioning so much of how he's been able to survive this long. So Words of Radiance is basically picking up after that. Now, with The Way of Kings, I really liked it a lot. But my biggest issue was that it was very slow. I mean, it was over 1,000 pages by itself. It was like 1,100 some pages. And it was good. I loved the things that we were seeing, especially towards the end, the way that kind of the plot was starting to develop by the end of it. But it was a very character-heavy story. You were learning things as the characters were. You were building on the world through the characters' perspectives, which is fine and dandy, and I love that. But it did really bring the story down in a lot of ways for me because I did feel like I was slogging through it. Now, I have heard from what Brandon Sanderson has said about this in interviews and various articles that he's written about this series in particular. That is pretty much the case with that first book, is that once you get through the first book, the rest of the books are a lot more action-packed. There's a lot more crazy things that happen. The first book is really like having to set up the world and setting up the characters within that world to show what the stakes are, and then by the end of it, seeing how exactly are those characters going to start coming together, or how are the plot threads basically going to expand further on in this book. So I don't really know what this one is going into, so I'm going to read the synopsis that's on the back of this paperback. This may be different than how it's perceived with other versions of this book, but we're going to go ahead and read what it says. The Knights Radiant must stand again. The Knights Radiant are the group that were rulers a long time ago, for context. The ancient oaths have at last been spoken. The Spren return. Spren are basically like little fairies almost. They're not quite fairies, but they pretty much exist in the entire world in every aspect. Men seek what was lost. I fear the quest will destroy them. It is the nature of the magic. A broken soul has cracks into which something else can be fit. Surge bindings, the power of creation themselves. They can brace a broken soul, but they can also widen its fissures. The Windrunner is lost in a shattered land, balanced upon the boundary between vengeance and honor. The Lightweaver, slowly being consumed by her past, searches for the lie that she must become. The Bondsmith, born in blood and death, now strives to rebuild what was destroyed. The Explorer, straddling the fates of two peoples, is forced to choose between slow death and a terrible betrayal of all she believes. It is past time for them to awaken, for the Everstorm looms, and the assassin has arrived. I think the assassin they're mentioning is Zeph, because he's the only assassin or mercenary that we have seen thus far. That's basically all I can say for right now with this. I haven't started it yet. We have about 3 minutes until the readathon technically starts. So I'm going to see if I can find the audiobook. I can't remember if I was going to be able to get it through Scribd or what, but at the very least, we'll be starting this during my lunch break because I'm getting ready to do that right now. But first, I need to take little Oscar here out on a walk. Bubba, do you want to go for a walk? Do you want to go for a walk? Yeah? Okay, we're going to go for a walk. So I will catch up with you guys a little bit later today, probably once I've made some good progress. Again, I want to try to get around 100 pages of this done tonight, so probably when I get to that point, I'll let you know. And then probably the only other update I will give you is by the time the readathon ends tomorrow at noon. So it's 24 hours, but again, I will be reading this over the entire course of this next week, so you're only going to really hear my thoughts on maybe the first couple hundred pages and what I'm thinking of it so far, and then we'll kind of see in my October wrap-up how the rest of this ended up going. So keep your eyes peeled for that for later this month, but I am going to go so I can go take this little dude out on a walk, and I will see all of you guys later. Okay, so I don't have a reading update yet, but I have some really good news that you guys are going to need to know. Okay, so some of you guys may know I've been working remote for almost 3 years, and I've been looking for a new job for a good while. I had an interview this past Monday and a second interview yesterday for a job. I just got the call that I got the job that I wanted. I got the job. Oh my God. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm getting ready to cry because I've been trying so hard to find something different that was going to get me out of the house, was going to pay me more, and offer way more growth down the line. And I've been struggling so hard with it, but I finally got a new job. So I start 1st of November. My weekends are going to be really weird though, because I'm working at an esthetician office as a receptionist and an assistant to the owner, which is really exciting. I'm starting off more than what I make now, which is so exciting. And after 3 months, that will go up, and then continuously will go up again. I'm so excited, but I don't start till the 1st because I want to be able to give 2 weeks to my current workplace, and on the Friday of my last day, I am going to have to go back to the office for the last time and get the last of my things from my desk and turn in my equipment. It's going to be really bittersweet. Because as much as I love the people I work with, and I love the fact that I've grown so much from this job that I've had as my first like big girl job, really, I've needed for a long time to do something different, and this place was not paying me what I was worth, especially after 3 years. I had not received a raise in 3 years other than living cost adjustments, which only in 3 years was essentially 50 cents worth of adjustments. So that's not good. And I've fought and fought and fought and fought to get myself and my coworker a raise. And it also is bittersweet in the sense that I am going to be leaving my coworker who's been there longer by herself with maybe one other person who she's going to have to train. But ultimately, that's not my problem. That's not my fault, because the both of us have known that we should be looking for other things. But I can't control her. She can't control what I do. I've been actively looking, and I hadn't said anything to anybody that I work with because, honestly, they don't deserve to know. And if they try to come back at me with, oh, you know, we'll raise your wage or whatever, I'm going to tell them no. I don't care if it's more than what this place is going to be giving me that I'm going to, because they should have done that when I asked them. I am not going to let them trap me. I'm so excited. I will be very happy to be able to get out of the house a little more, as opposed to maybe the once or twice a week, usually on my weekends. But what I was saying before is that the weekends are going to be kind of funny. So once November hits, I will no longer have a Saturday-Sunday weekend. I will actually be having a Sunday-Monday weekend because their office is open Tuesdays through Saturdays, 9 to 5. And I will have the ability to come home during my lunch to come take care of Oscar, which that's going to be weird too because Oscar's going to be by himself for about 4 hours at a time. I come back on my lunch, come take him outside, make sure he's okay, and then I don't see him till I get home. And there's a lot of other things in the next 2 weeks. They're going to be really intense. Like, the next 2 weeks are going to be a whirlwind. Just purely because of trying to strategize and figure out the best way for me to be able to go back to working in an office. It's going to be weird at first. It's going to be really, I think, disorienting in a lot of ways, and adjusting my schedule is going to be really weird. So for the time being, my schedule of Monday, Wednesday, Friday videos will continue at least for the rest of October. And then maybe the first week of November as well should still be fine. But after the first week of November, I will likely have to adjust my upload schedule slightly. It basically might be where I switch it to Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday as my upload schedule. Because basically what will end up happening is Sundays will end up being my filming days and like when I go get groceries and stuff like that, unless I decide after work on Saturdays to go get groceries. I don't know. And then Mondays will likely be my editing days and scheduling content, stuff like that. So I'm going to play around with it once I kind of get into this new job. So I'm going to do the absolute best I can to, you know, make this still happen. But give me some grace. I know you guys are really good about that and stuff like that. But just, I want to keep you guys aware that this happened today. And I'm very excited. I know a lot of you guys have been hoping and keeping your prayers out for me and stuff. So I greatly appreciate it. It's finally happening. I'm finally going to be able to leave this business and go work for a smaller company that's going to showcase my skills way more. I'm going to be able to do copywriting, which is going to be fun. I'm very excited, and the owner from my initial interview was really excited to meet me, which made me feel very hopeful. And then when I went in for my second interview, they wanted to do a background check. So after spending a little bit of time on the phone with my sister and my mother, I've also just sent out my email stating that I will be leaving, and I am placing in my 2 weeks notice. That was really hard. That was, like, I still feel a tightness in my chest. Like, the anxiety is immense. Like, I can actually feel with my hand right here on my chest, I can feel my heart pounding. That was really hard. I'm not necessarily afraid of any backlash that's going to come my way, if there is any at all. But I know it's going to probably be a shock to my team because I have not said anything about looking for other work. I realized that while I was speaking to my mom about this new job, I am literally doing the same thing that my previous coworker did this time last year. which is leaving, first of all, at the end of October. Secondly, leaving at a time where there's a lot that goes on this time of the year. And it hurts to like leave my team like that, but at the same time, I realize I have to do something for me. I have to be selfish. So my last day officially is going to be Friday, October 28th. And on that day, I will be going into my office for the last time. I will be returning my work laptop and cleaning out the last of the things I have at my desk, which I have not been at since January this year, because beginning of this year I had to move desks, which is going to be interesting because I think I technically still have to update my work badge, which I haven't done since April of 2021, and we, in April of 2022, switched contracting agencies, so I don't know if technically I still need to do that. I don't know if I have to like go get my security badge updated again, which if I have to, the day that is my final day, that's going to be kind of weird, but it is what it is. I have to do what I have to do, right? Like, it's part of what I need to do. Which reminds me, I probably should find where my security badge is because I haven't seen it in about 9 months. So I should probably figure out where I put that. I have a couple ideas of where I might have put it. I just have to actually go and find it here in the next couple of weeks. Very happy that this came in at the perfect time. Because I know some of you guys were really hoping and wondering how things were going in my personal life with the job aspect, because many of you do know that I have been looking for a new job. I am a little sad that I will ultimately be closing an entire chapter of my life that has been 3 years of complete what feels like chaos, but I do think it's time that I spread my wings in a new area, getting back to being out with people on a regular basis, because as much as I love being at home and through and through an introvert, I do like seeing people. I do like being around people. And this new job will give me that ability again. And it's going to also give me so many more opportunities that I've been ready for, have been waiting for. And it's just going to lead to so much more growth down the line. And it comes at a really good time too, because I started back up with therapy last Wednesday. I had my second session with my therapist just this past Wednesday. And I'm starting tomorrow going to be on some new medication because I need to get back to where I need to be. Because I haven't been where I needed to be for a while. I think that all of these new things are coming at a time where I desperately need them. And I know that many of my friends or people who have seen me, over the last handful of months will definitely agree with that. There's been a lot of things over the last, honestly, since this past summer that has really knocked me down a lot of pegs. My mental health really tanked over the summer. And I feel like I'm finally starting to get back up the hill. And thankfully, that hill has an escalator. It's not going to be without challenges, I will say. But I think I'm more prepared for those challenges than I think the same person I was a year ago would be. I will come back later with an actual update on reading here later tonight, once I've made some progress in Words of Radiance. But yeah, I'm really glad I could actually get this put into this vlog, because I haven't had many vlogs going on in the course of this month. Or at least that I've put out so far this month, where I could talk to you guys about stuff that's going on. So I'm really glad to say that I have some things to update you on right now. But more to come, more to come. So anyway, I will speak to you guys later. Hey guys, so it is Sunday. I did not get a chance yesterday to close out this vlog because, quite honestly, Sunday I was flying around 5 million different places. I had to go get groceries and stuff, and I didn't even do any filming yesterday, so I have to film one last video for this coming week, and I have to still record the podcast episode for this week. So I'm a little behind, but I'm fine with that because yesterday I was super overrun and overwhelmed, mostly because I did it to myself. But I got home yesterday and I just vegged out and I didn't really do much other than play Stardew Valley and listen to a little bit more of Words of Radiance. But by the time it hit noon yesterday, I did not read anything, and anything I did read of this over the day yesterday was after noon, so it wasn't during the 24-hour readathon. But I will say I did actually surpass the goal I had for Friday, which was to read 108 pages. I got to like 122, and I do like this a lot more. There is a lot more plot developing as time goes on, specifically with Shalyn. Shalyn's plot is getting to be very intense very quickly, especially considering the last, little bit I just read, because I'm currently on page 192. So the last like 70 pages for Shalyn's plotline has gotten a lot more intense. But basically the one thing I can say is that throughout most of this, there is the talk of the fact on, especially like Kaladin and Dalinar's side, because Kaladin and Dalinar, by the end of the Way of Kings, have met up, they're working together, they're doing stuff together, so their plot lines cross. But we basically learned that there's an assassin who's been going around killing kings, and like he's killed a couple different ones since the death of Dalinar in the very first chapter of the Way of Kings. And I think it's Szeth they're talking about. I'm fairly certain it is, because he's the only assassin that I can think of that we've met so far, unless it's somebody completely random that is like going to be maybe framing Szeth for some of the deaths, even though Szeth is the one that killed Dalinar. But they don't really say anything much about who it is or what's going on. But they do know that with the fact that there is this war going on with the Pardeshi, I don't even remember half the time how they say it, but the other kingdom, they are trying to also keep the king safe because the king is in danger. They understand that like this assassin means business and they have to do what they can to protect him. So that's a little bit about what's going on right now. Shalyn is going on this adventure with Yasna, who is the sister to the current king, and they're going off to do some research on something that they're figuring out is like a really big deal, because things happen in the Way of Kings that I can't really talk about too much without spoiling it, but essentially Yasna is proven not to basically be as powerful as she seems to some capacity, and there's some very important information in regards to the Knights Radiant, I believe, that they are going to go find out more about, and it involves them traveling, and Shalyn is kind of along for the ride with that. So there's a really big thing though that happens. Sorry, I have like a hair stuck to my face that I can't seem to get. There's a really big event that happens though on the ship as they are on this journey, and it throws everything Shalyn thought she knew and a lot of things that she was planning on down the drain. Anyway, that's all I can really say about this for right now, but I will be working on this over the course of this next week, but that is going to be the end of this vlog. I basically, in the course of 24 hours, read 121 pages, something like that. So yeah, but thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. Let me know what you guys are thinking of Words of Radiance if you're reading it along with me for the Brandon Sanderson readathon. I'm very excited for the end of this because of the fact that I have heard that this series in particular, book 2, is where a lot of the plot does get really more involved and we get to see more of what's really going on, and then obviously book 3 is probably one of the best ones I've heard of the series, and then Rhythm of War, which came out much more recently, also has been getting a lot of high praise for this series. So very excited to be able to get through more of this, but this is a chunky book, so it's going to take some time. So thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up, and if you haven't already and you'd like to be and would like to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock, and I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys.